All right, today we're gonna be going through a full deep dive walkthrough of the Fortius 1 and 2 person tents. We've got both of them here. This is the blue, this is the Arctic. In this video, we're talking about the design walkthrough, not necessarily the setup process. We'll drop a link to the setup process up here in the corner. Go ahead and get these set up and take you through the entire tent. All right, so when you first set up this tent, you're gonna notice a few things. Number one thing that you're gonna notice is that we have really long guy lines right here. Now you really don't need it to be this long for some setups. You could easily put your stake just this far away from your tent. However, what we have found is that in the field, it makes a big difference to have this much cord to be able to get your stake in a much bigger area. Say you've got a rock right here or a root, or you just got really hard dirt. This is pretty forgiving to be able to move that stake a little bit to make sure it stays secure. The other thing that you're gonna notice when pitching your tent is you're gonna get a few lines in your stake bag. Inside of the stake bag, we've given you plenty of extra cordage for a few things. Number one is these. These are just extra cords that you can tie onto the bottom corners of your tent. So if you look down here, I'm gonna loosen this just a little bit. On the bottom of your tent, there are tabs. You are welcome to affix these to the corners there and pull it out to the stake. Now, we didn't affix that already from the factory because we don't feel like it's needed. It's something that is preferred, and if we put them on there, people will try to use them every time, and it's really just not something that you need every time. It can actually cause a little more pitching problems than it might help. So because of that, we don't affix them, but we do give them to you because they can be useful and they can be a preferred way of pitching your tent. The other thing though that you will find inside that stake bag are these right here. They are clippable and movable guy lines. This is one of the cool parts of the innovations of this tent is that around the outside, you can see the clips there with the adjusters. Sorry, I'm kind of covering that up. Around the entire tent, on each side panel, there are these D-rings. You can tie to them, but you can also take these, clip right onto them, and have a very quick, easy access way to secure this tent. We advertise this tent as being quite storm worthy, and these are one of the aspects that really help with that. One of the things that plagues a lot of trekking pole tents on the market right now is that when wind starts to hit, it can blow the tent fabric right on top of your face or your feet, or blow the side down. But having these and being able to move them around the tent or buy extra of these really help it to be very secure, even in windy or unpleasant situations. 2 will come with your tent standard, as well as 2 extra stakes. The tent takes 6 stakes to set up. However, we give you 8 stakes so that you can secure either this end out or this piece right here. Most of the time, I will typically leave these on the head and the foot end. And a lot of times I can use 1 stake to get both of these out and usable. These are already going to be attached to the tent, and I will pull this out. The purpose of this is twofold. Number one, by pulling this out, you can get a little additional head and foot room. It creates just more space inside the tent. The second thing is, in windy conditions, it does help to take some of the stress off of just these other stakes. When you pull this out, we don't typically recommend that you tighten it so that it's really pulling or anything like that, but more so just barely helping it pull out, and then when the wind hits it, it's there to help support. So again, these are really long cordages. You'll be able to get a very long pitch if you so desire. The other thing that sometimes we will do is we'll use 1 stake to give a little bit of tension here. Use a tree branch or something like that to pull this up and on a good angle, and then secure it to the same stake. You may also though just want to bring a couple of extra stakes, as they're pretty handy with the trekking pole tent. So you can pull this out farther and get a good angle on it out here, or you could use something like a tree branch to pick this up and get a little bit of a better angle here. So that's how all of the cordage on the outside of the tent will work. Let's go ahead and move to the vestibule and the inside of the tent. One of the things that we did also is we have added a top zipper pull right here. So you can zip this down. It can help you get a little bit more ventilation in the tent if you so choose to do it. But a lot of the ventilation in this piece is really meant to come from underneath. So you've got a few Velcro tabs that come down this side, 3 to be exact, and then you can zip this up. There is also a toggle here, which you can see is done by the factory. This is just in case you ever had a failure, some redundancy in this. So let me go ahead and unclip this. You can see that a little bit more, and we'll zip this open and roll this back. This elastic toggle here, get that up and out of the way. You'll also notice though here just the size of this vestibule. It's a very, very good size. You're able to put your entire tent, or excuse me, backpack right inside here, shoes, all sorts of things. In fact, out on the AT recently, there were so many spiders that I hung my shoes from this line right here, which I'll explain what this is in just a second, just to keep them off of the ground because there were so many spiders around. But large vestibules, plenty of space inside of these vestibules. And then you've got the added functionality of being able to unclip this right here and utilize this to keep your trekking pole tent up. So I can retension this right here, and then I can roll this piece out of the way as well. So one of the things that you'll notice looking in right here is that you do have the ability to tighten this around the pole. It gives it a little bit of extra security, but one of the things it also does is it helps the zipper to work a little bit smoother and easier. You'll see that down here on the trekking pole, we have little tabs to stick the bottom, the grommet. There's a grommet there and a tab. This helps pull the tent out, kind of gives it some shape. But also there is a little bit of fluctuation in here where you could potentially raise this pole up another inch or bring it down another inch, depending on how you might want to pitch it. Now, this is a pretty critical and nice piece because if you're wanting to, let's say, if there's not very many storms or anything like that forecast, you could always raise this up, get your tent just a little bit more high off the ground, and that will create just that much more ventilation for you. Or let's say you're going to have a lot of wind and rain, you can also drop this down just a little bit, snug it down to the ground, and make sure that you're nice and secure inside the tent. This piece right up here just has a reinforced area that you can drop your handle of your trekking pole into. The tip is obviously going down to the ground here. And at some point there will be poles available to purchase that can also just be placed in here if you're someone who doesn't use trekking poles or doesn't want to use your trekking poles to pitch this shelter. All right, so moving into the tent here, we'll go ahead and open this up and pull this back. So we've got a no-seam mesh right here along with YKK zippers. And you can see the bathtub floor. This is a bathtub floor. It is seam taped all the way around the bottom of this, as well as the fly and every part of this tent is seam taped as well. So you don't have to worry about seam taping any of this or dealing with any of that. It will come ready to go and ready to go into the field with you. All right, now, so coming inside the tent, one of the things that you will notice is that there is a lot of headroom. Again, I'm 6'2", a little bit over that, so I'm a bigger guy and I fit easily in here. In fact, sitting on a pad and whatnot, you still have plenty of space. I've doubled up a 3.5-inch pad and I'm still not hitting the roof in here. So plenty of headroom in here as well as length, which I'll show you. So again, at 6'2" right here, this is the kind of head space and foot space that I have. Obviously, if I was on a pad, I'd be a little bit closer to the ceiling, maybe about where my head is right now. My feet would be a little bit higher down there, but there is ample space for taller people to fit well into the shelter. Obviously 6'2", 6'3" fits in here really well. It's been well tested. I think you could easily get to 6'4" and 6'5" comfortably inside this shelter. All right, so a few of the features inside of the tent here. You do have some areas to be able to tie a cross line across the middle here. That's really good for hanging gear. I always clip my inReach and put my hat up there, as well as hang wet gear inside the tent. You'll notice there is a small pocket right here. Hopefully you can see that right there behind my hand. But we've got a small pocket. I typically will drop my phone or battery bank or things that I just want here close. Just see this side actually arcs up a little bit higher. It's not a straight line across. A straight line would be, lower down in this range. And you'll also see on the outside of the tent that vestibule sits higher. Plenty of coverage, very, very storm worthy, but it creates a lot of opportunity for breeze or airflow to come inside of this and have this big, big mesh wall tent. Give you security from the outside, both visually and from the elements. So you're protected, you're private in here, but it just makes for a lot of ventilation to be able to occur. Speaking of ventilation, let's look up here in the head and foot ends to show you what we did on those. So right here, you will notice that this is all mesh. There's an overhang, so if you ever did have any moisture coming down the side of this tent, it would come down here, trap in this mesh, and then be able to drop out instead of come back into your tent. It's a really smooth design, but also creates additional airflow throughout this entire tent, which is something that we really focused on, was trying to reduce as much condensation as possible, and this tent really does breathe well. Down here in this corner, you'll also be able to see all of the seam sealing that's done in these corners, as well as like this heavier piece of fabric here, which is just there for additional durability. But it does come fully taped and sealed, so it is a true bathtub floor, so you don't have to worry about moisture getting in from underneath. In fact, one time out on a trip, we had basically rivers running through our camp, and we're safe and sound inside of these tents, which is a very nice thing to be able to rely on. Another important aspect of this tent is how easy and well it pitches, and a big part of that is making sure that we had catenary cuts around the outside. So if you look right here at this side, you'll notice that there is a curvature to this cut. If it was straight, the middle of it would be down in this area right here. This curvature helps it when pitching to pitch very flush, very even, and just make it a quicker process for you when you're getting into camp. One of the things that you'll notice on the Fortius one-person tent is that the trekking poles here are offset by about 20 centimeters. The reason behind that is to increase its storm worthiness while also providing maximum headspace in here. Now, if we had these at equal heights, it just allows, it would just take more wind load essentially by having that. The more angles and differences in angles on a tent that you can put into it, obviously the better it's going to shed the wind. So you get maximum head height in here while also retaining a lot better ability to shed the wind. So that wraps up the one person. Let's go ahead and pull out the two person and show you what that looks like. All right, so we've got the two person Fortius set up here right now. This is the blue color. So you can kind of see the differences in the colors right here, which hopefully will be helpful to you guys ordering. But the first thing you'll notice is obviously that this is squared off. These poles are both set to 118 centimeters, going to those same bottom grommets, but it is a square piece. You'll see that this big panel right here is obviously gonna be much larger than on the one person. For that reason, we've actually added two of these guy outlines. That's just gonna help this big panel right here take additional wind load. When it does get that wind load, it'll help pull it, but also typically in a two-person tent, you've got two people sleeping in there. So it's just gonna create additional headroom inside of there. Instead of having one point right in the middle, you've just got a little bit more space that you can create with those pieces. On the outside, it's the same deal. You've got the catenary cuts, same ability to zip down from the top. Really the same tent, other than those differences on the outside. As mentioned, the Fortius 2 will also have two additional stakes. You will have these movable, clippable storm points to move around, and you do have the ability to attach these to those bottom corners if you so desire. This is a V-style stake, as you can see there, and they are 7 inches long. One of the biggest things that we've noticed with trekking pole tents is just being able to have a longer than 6-inch stake. So 7, 8, 9 inches is gonna be helpful, especially in those weather conditions. So having that little bit extra length is helpful. If you only have the 8 stakes and you're not gonna purchase any additional stakes or add from your own collection, what I typically do is I can pull these to the same point. You've got these really long leads, which allow you a lot of room to get a good angle on this tent. If you pull straight to the ground, obviously it's not gonna do as much as it can do when you can pull in this angle when that wind load hits. But you can still use just one stake on these to do this, and then be able to tighten those up if you need to load a little bit more on there. Or if you've got wind coming from a specific side, it's just as easy to use one stake per side and be able to even offset this to help take the load as needed. So a lot of the times you really won't need to use these storm points, but when you do, or just because a lot of times you're gonna leave them affixed to your tent, two of the best places, or my favorite places to use these, even before there's weather, is just right here on this head and foot end. Stake that out. And that just is gonna help pull this away from your head that much more. If you ever did have a breeze or something come up, it's just gonna help take that load. And the other place that I like to do this is actually right here on the vestibule. Something like this. And I'll drop that out here. And really the reason that I do that is because I'm typically gonna put my backpack right inside that vestibule. So having this just slightly tensioned right here, just make sure that if wind ever did come on this side, it's not gonna collapse and push in and hit my backpack or any of the gear that I've stored inside of there. So again, a lot of times I'm not even using them or staking them out, but when I do, those are two of my favorite locations. All right, we'll go ahead and open up this tent. Same thing, we've got 3 Velcros right there. So one of the things that I like to do in the setup process here is I like to leave this very loose. Sometimes this will get tightened, and when you go to set it up, you'll get kind of a weird thing going on here. So I like to leave this loose at all times. I check up here that it's not wrapped around the pole, and then you can tighten that up and out of the way. Good idea to go ahead and secure this to the trekking pole here. I failed to mention on that one person, but is actually there, is this pole goes on a slight angle to the side. So if it was going straight up and down, it would be about right here. Instead, it's about 4 inches over to the side, and that is to give you a bigger area to enter and exit the tent. I've opened the entire vestibule up to help you guys see this. Inside the tent here, you're gonna see just how much headroom there is. Now, a lot of times there's headroom when you're right here down the center line, but you'll notice as I slide clear over here, again, it's a little noisy. Again, at 6'2", I can sit off here. You can have someone sitting over there. There's a lot of space in here, thanks to just the height of the tent as well as utilizing some of these pull-outs. Now, it's a little bit warm today, and so one of the things that I just wanted to reiterate is that we have double zipper slides on both the inside and the outside of this. A lot of times, I like to leave them always at the top. That's just a preference. But reaching out here, you can again pull this zipper slider down, kind of crack this Velcro open, and you can get a little bit more ventilation, especially if a breeze comes through, be able to blow right through that gap. The rest of the tent here is going to be very similar. It's a square tent, 48 inches wide, plenty of space. We're actually gonna blow up 2 long wide pads and put them in here so you guys can see what that looks like. Again, you've got these 2 grommets that pull the floor out on these angles. And if you want or choose to, you'll be able to pull these corners out, which actually would probably better do that just so that you can see what that might look like. All right, so these are the corner lines right here that you can attach. So all you do is find this corner of the bathtub floor, loop this through and tie a knot. Whether you've got the know how to tie an adjustable knot or not, you can do either of your choice, but you can get that affixed right there, and then you can pull this obviously out to your stake. That just, again, helps it to have this boxy look that you're looking for here. One thing I do want to make sure you guys are aware of though, is this piece right here is not meant to be super tight and taking a big load. This is more so just to create that boxy look that you may like, or to pull those corners out. You know, if you're getting a lot of wind from underneath, and let's say you're using this as just one person and it's a 2-person tent, you may start to get some wind lifting up these corners. So just having something like this to be able to pull those corners out is helpful. All right, we're gonna go ahead and throw 2 25-inch long wide pads in here so you can see what that looks like. All right, so that was one of the concerns, is will 2 long wide pads fit in here? As you can see, they do. They take up, you know, the entire width of the floor, but there is some forgiveness around these edges, which make it easily be able to fit these long wide pads. You know, if I center them here, again, these are 78-inch long pads. You'll see that there's, I don't know, 6 inches on the head and the foot end still available. You can see there's space. It's definitely not flexing the outside of the tent or anything like that. So you can definitely get 2 25-inch long wide pads in here, which gives you an idea of the total footprint and usable space of the floor. As with the 1-person Fortius tent, you still have these tie points up in here. You can click your Garmin inReach up there, or you could tie a line across to be able to hang gear as desired. So as you can see on the 2-person, you do have double doors, double vestibules, and you can also see kind of, again, the size of these vestibules, more than adequate for 1 person's gear to fit in here out of the weather. So this has been our full video walkthrough of our Fortius trekking pole tents. Whether you choose the 1-person or the 2-person trekking pole tent, they will treat you right. You're gonna be light on your back, and they're gonna keep you protected from all of the elements that you'll face out there in the field.